Leon Walker's hands moved with practiced ease, tightening bolts and reconnecting wires beneath the belly of an old freighter. The Osiris Station, a rusting hub floating at the edge of the Tantalus system, was where ships went to die, and Leon was the one who kept them on life support just long enough to squeeze out a few more credits. The flickering lights and ever-present hum of the station were a constant reminder of how far he'd fallen from his days working on state-of-the-art cruisers for the Earth fleet. Wiping sweat from his brow, Leon straightened up, his muscles aching from hours hunched over broken machinery. He glanced at the chronometer on the wall, 0300 hours. Most of the station's inhabitants were either asleep or passed out in the bars. It was his favorite time of night quiet, with no drunken pilots trying to barter for repairs with IOUs and empty promises. Just as he was about to pack up his tools, the lights flickered, followed by a faint tremor that rattled the loose panels of the workshop. Leon's heart skipped a beat. A power surge? No, this was something different. He stepped out of his cramped garage and peered through the viewport into the inky blackness of space. Suddenly, a flash of blinding blue light erupted, followed by a deafening crash that shook the station. Alarms blared, and the red emergency lights cast eerie shadows on the bulkheads. The station's communication system crackled to life. Alert! Unidentified object has breached the outer perimeter. All personnel to standby positions. Leon's instincts kicked in. Whatever had crashed, it wasn't a regular ship. He grabbed his toolkit and rushed down the narrow, winding corridors of Osiris Station. As he neared the hangar bay, the thick scent of scorched metal and ozone filled his nostrils. The bay doors were jammed half open, and beyond them lay a scene straight out of a nightmare. Amidst twisted metal and shattered crates was a sleek starship, its design unlike anything Leon had ever seen. The hull was smooth, almost organic, with veins of glowing blue energy running along its surface. It looked as if it were alive, pulsating faintly in the darkness. What the hell? Leon whispered to himself, cautiously approaching the ship. The air was thick with smoke, and electrical sparks danced across the bay floor. As he drew closer, a faint hiss sounded from the ship's side, and a hatch slowly lowered. Out of the mist, a figure staggered forward, a tall woman clad in form-fitting, silver armor that shimmered under the emergency lights. She was unlike any alien species Leon had ever encountered. Her skin had a faint, iridescent sheen, and her eyes glowed a haunting shade of blue. The woman's movements were unsteady, and she clutched her side, where dark liquid, either oil or blood, was seeping through the seams of her armor. "Help me!" she rasped, her voice like the whisper of a distant storm. Before Leon could respond, she collapsed to the ground with a heavy thud. Leon hesitated for only a moment. He didn't know who she was or why she had crash-landed here, but she clearly needed help. Cursing under his breath, he knelt beside her, pressing his fingers to her neck to check for a pulse. To his relief, he felt a faint but steady thrum. "Hang in there, all right," he muttered, more to himself than to her. He had no idea if she could even understand him. He managed to haul her up over his shoulder, grunting under her surprising weight. As he carried her back to his workshop, he could hear the station's security team scrambling to respond to the crash. But they were too late. If Leon reported her now, there was no telling what they'd do to an injured alien of unknown origin. He had seen firsthand how the station authorities dealt with anything that threatened their fragile status quo: shoot first, ask questions never. Once he made it to his workshop, Leon laid the woman on his repair table, sweeping aside engine parts and scattered tools. Up close, he could see that her armor was more than just protective gear. It seemed to be fused to her skin, like a second layer. Her breathing was shallow, and her eyes fluttered open briefly, locking onto his with an intensity that sent a chill down his spine. "What? What are you doing?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Trying to save your life," Leon replied, rummaging through his medical kit. He wasn't a doctor, but years of patching up wounded pilots and himself had taught him a few things. "I need to get this armor off, see what's wrong." No, no time, she gasped, her voice fading. Ship. Repair. Must. Escape. Leon paused, trying to make sense of her fragmented words. Your ship? You want me to fix it? Her eyes flickered in acknowledgement before they rolled back, and she went limp. Leon's mind raced. He had no idea who this woman was or why she was so desperate to get her ship running again, but something told him he didn't have much time to figure it out. He glanced over at the alien vessel visible through the viewport. Whatever technology powered it was far beyond anything he had ever seen. But he was nothing if not resourceful, and he had a knack for making the impossible work with nothing but duct tape and sheer stubbornness. All right, lady, he muttered, grabbing his toolkit. Let's see what I can do. As Leon approached the ship, the strange energy pulses along its hull seemed to react to his presence, glowing brighter. The hatch remained open, inviting him inside. He hesitated at the threshold. Who knew what kind of security systems this alien vessel had? But time was running out. The station authorities would be swarming the hangar soon, and if they found him here with an unconscious alien, it wouldn't end well for either of them. Taking a deep breath, Leon stepped into the dimly lit interior of the ship. The walls were smooth, curving like the inside of a giant seashell, with holographic displays flickering in alien symbols. The air inside was cool and carried a faint scent that reminded him of rain-soaked earth. He reached what appeared to be the main control panel, a console covered in glowing glyphs. The symbols shifted and rearranged themselves as if trying to communicate with him. Come on, you piece of alien junk, Leon muttered, tapping on the console. He had no idea what any of the symbols meant, but he had a knack for figuring out machines. After a few minutes of trial and error, he managed to bypass a series of security protocols. The ship hummed to life, and the lights brightened. Suddenly, the woman's voice crackled through the ship's comm system, weak but urgent. Human. You must get the engines online, before they come. Leon's blood ran cold. Who were they? And why was this woman so terrified of them? He didn't have time to ask questions. With a final twist of a lever, the engine roared to life, sending a wave of energy rippling through the hangar. Just as the ship stabilized, a loud bang echoed through the workshop. The door burst open, and the station's security officers flooded in, weapons drawn. Step away from the alien vessel, one of them barked. Leon turned, hands raised, but before he could say a word, the alien woman's voice came through the speakers again. Leon. Get on board. Now. The nanite-infused control panel recognized his touch, opening a side hatch. With no time to lose, he dove inside, just as the ship's thrusters fired up. The last thing he saw before the hatch closed was the shocked faces of the security team, their weapons trained on him. As the ship rocketed away from the Osiris station, Leon's mind was filled with a single, burning question. What the hell had he just gotten himself into? Leon's world was a blur of flashing lights, deafening engine noise, and the deep rumble of alien machinery. The vessel jerked violently as it blasted away from Osiris Station, throwing him against a curved wall. He groaned, struggling to stay on his feet. The interior of the alien ship was a labyrinth of smooth surfaces, shifting lights, and strange symbols that pulsed in time with the hum of its engines. Human, listen closely, a faint voice echoed through the ship's comm system. It was the woman the alien he had just helped escape. I'm rerouting navigation controls to the auxiliary deck. You need to stabilize the ship. Now. Stabilize? Leon shouted back. I don't even know what half these buttons do. But there was no time to argue. The ship jolted again, and red warning lights bathed the cockpit. Desperation was a familiar companion for Leon. It had driven him to learn how to fix just about anything that could fly. He trusted his instincts and sprinted through the narrow corridor toward the auxiliary deck. The control room was a tangle of flickering holograms, all displaying alien glyphs that twisted and morphed before his eyes. Sweat dripped down his brow as he quickly deciphered the symbols, using the fragments of understanding the ship's systems seemed to be feeding him. Okay, thrusters, stabilization, engine dampeners. He muttered under his breath. He reached out, fingers dancing over the console. The ship shuddered but gradually leveled out, the warning alarms quieting. He let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. For a moment, there was silence save for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Then the alien woman's voice came through again, calmer this time. "Well done, human," she said. "I am Relara of the Azara Dominion. You have saved my life. For now." Leon sank into a nearby seat, his adrenaline crash making his hands shake. "Yeah, well, saving your life wasn't exactly my plan when I woke up this morning," he muttered. "How about you tell me what the hell is going on?" But there was no response. The comm line went dead. Several hours later, Relara had stabilized, but was still weak from whatever injury she had sustained. Leon managed to drag her to a small mid-bay within the ship. It was a sleek, minimalist chamber filled with alien medical technology that was both fascinating and utterly incomprehensible to him. He laid her down on a padded platform that seemed to scan her the moment she touched it, beams of light running over her body. Leon tried to stay focused, but he couldn't stop thinking about the strange technology surrounding him. This wasn't like any other alien tech he had encountered during his years on Osiris Station. It felt alive, almost like it was responding to his presence. Relara's eyes fluttered open, her luminous gaze locking onto Leon's. "The ship's systems are repairing me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it will take time. You have questions?" "No kidding," Leon replied, crossing his arms. "You crashed on my station, almost got me killed by security, and now I'm stuck on your ship in the middle of God knows where. What the hell were you running from?" Relara took a labored breath. "I am. Or rather, I was, a researcher for the Azara Dominion. I was part of a project to develop advanced nanotechnology living machines that could repair, enhance, and even control biological life forms." Her eyes darkened. "But the project was perverted. Turned into a weapon by those who seek to dominate the galaxy." Leon frowned. "And you stole this tech? Is that why you're being hunted?" "Yes," Relara said, her voice hardening. "I couldn't let them turn it into a tool of conquest. So I took the prototype and fled. But the Dominion's assassins are relentless. They will not stop until they retrieve what I've stolen." Leon ran a hand through his hair, trying to process everything. "So you're saying that tech? It's inside this ship?" Relara's eyes flickered with something. Leon staggered back, his eyes wide. "What do you mean it's inside me?" Relara struggled to sit up, wincing as the mid-bay scanners continued to work on her injuries. "When I touched you back on the station, I transferred a portion of the nanites into your bloodstream. They're part of the prototype I stole." "You infected me?" Leon shouted, his voice echoing through the mid-bay. "Why the hell would you do that?" "I didn't have a choice," Relara snapped, her eyes blazing. "The nanites would have been destroyed if I kept them on me. I needed a living host, and you were available." Leon clenched his fists, trying to keep his anger in check. "What the hell did you put in me, exactly? And what's it doing to me?" "The nanites are not just machines. They are adaptive, semi-sentient entities designed to bond with a host," Relara explained. "They can enhance your strength, speed, and cognitive abilities, but they have a side effect. The longer they remain in your system, the more they influence your thoughts and desires." Leon's blood ran cold as he remembered the strange urges that had been creeping into his mind since he woke up on the ship. The need to fight, the hunger for violence. "You turned me into some kind of weapon, didn't you?" Relara's expression softened, almost regretful. "Not a weapon, Leon. A warrior. The nanites are programmed to optimize their host for survival. Unfortunately, their definition of survival often includes eliminating perceived threats. By any means necessary. Leon leaned against the wall, trying to steady himself. You need to get these things out of me. Now. Relara shook her head weakly. I can't. Once they've bonded, removal is complicated. But I can teach you to control them, to keep them from consuming you. Yeah, well, forgive me if I don't exactly trust you right now, Leon muttered. But deep down, he knew he had no other choice. The nanites were already changing him, and without her help, he was doomed. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared again, and the lights dimmed to a warning red. Relara's eyes widened. They found us. The Dominion has sent hunters to retrieve me, and their technology. How many? Leon asked, instinctively reaching for the sidearm he always kept on him. Enough to overwhelm us, Relara replied. Unless you let the nanites assist you. Leon hesitated, the whispers at the edge of his mind growing louder. The nanites wanted him to fight, to unleash their full power. He could feel the alien energy coursing through his veins, begging to be used. If I do this, if I let them take over, how do I know I can stop? He asked, his voice barely audible. You won't, Relara admitted, her expression grim. But it's either that or die here. Leon gritted his teeth. He didn't have a choice. If they were going to survive the incoming assault, he needed every advantage he could get. Taking a deep breath, he let go of his resistance, allowing the nanites to surge through him. The change was immediate. His vision sharpened, his muscles tightened, and the whispers in his mind became a roar. But he was no longer afraid. For the first time, he felt in control. All right, he said, a feral grin spreading across his face. Let's see what these bastards have got. As the ship's sensors detected incoming boarding parties, Leon readied himself for battle. The nanites hummed with excitement, their bloodlust merging with his own. This was what they were made for. And now, so was he. The ship rocked violently as the Dominion's hunters fired a barrage of plasma bolts that rattled the hull. Leon could hear the metallic clang of grappling hooks piercing the ship's exterior as the enemy prepared to board. The whispering voices of the nanites swirled through his mind, urging him to unleash their full power. He could feel the alien energy coiling in his muscles, begging for release. Focus, Leon. Relara's voice crackled through the comm system. The hunters will be inside in less than a minute. You must hold them off while I reroute power to the hyperdrive. Leon clenched his fists, feeling a surge of strength ripple through his body. His skin tingled, his senses sharpening to a razor's edge. The nanites were enhancing him, filling him with an intoxicating rush of power. But with that power came a dark urge, a primal, savage instinct to destroy anything that threatened him. Right, he muttered, trying to shake off the bloodlust clawing at his mind. He needed to stay in control. If he gave in to the nanites completely, there might not be any coming back. He sprinted down the narrow corridor toward the ship's main airlock, his movements faster and more fluid than ever before. The ship's internal lights flickered as Relara diverted power to the defense systems. In the dim, strobing light, Leon caught a glimpse of his reflection in the polished metal walls. His eyes were glowing a faint, unnatural blue, the same color as Relara's. He pushed the unsettling sight out of his mind. There was no time to dwell on the changes happening to his body. As he reached the airlock, he heard the ominous hiss of metal being cut. The hunters were breaching the door. Leon's instincts kicked in. He pulled a compact plasma pistol from his holster, checking the charge. The weapon felt almost too light in his hand now, like a toy. He needed something with more impact. Glancing around, his gaze fell on an alien weapon mounted on the wall, a long, sleek rifle with glowing runes etched into its surface. Without thinking, he grabbed the alien rifle. The moment his fingers touched it, the nanites in his bloodstream surged, interfacing with the weapon's internal systems. Information flooded his mind: how to activate it, switch firing modes, even how to adjust the energy output for maximum damage. It was as if the knowledge had always been there, waiting to be unlocked. The airlock door burst open with a shower of sparks, and 4 armored figures poured through, their weapons trained on him. They were clad in the distinctive crimson armor of the Dominion's elite hunters. Leon could see the cold, merciless glint in their eyes through the visors of their helmets. "Stand down, human," one of them barked in a guttural voice. "Surrender the Azara and the prototype, and we might let you live." "Yeah, that's not gonna happen," Leon growled, his voice lower and harsher than before. He could feel the nanites urging him forward, feeding off his adrenaline. Without another word, he lifted the alien rifle and fired. A bolt of searing blue energy erupted from the barrel, striking the nearest hunter square in the chest. The armor crumpled under the impact, and the soldier collapsed, lifeless, to the floor. The remaining hunters opened fire, plasma rounds screaming through the air. But Leon was already moving, his reflexes faster than he thought possible. He ducked, weaved, and rolled, the nanites guiding his every move with inhuman precision. He was no longer just a mechanic, he was something more, something deadly. He charged forward, a savage grin spreading across his face. The second hunter tried to bring his weapon to bear, but Leon was on him in an instant, grabbing the soldier's arm and twisting it with bone-snapping force. The hunter screamed as his limb was torn free, but Leon didn't stop. The nanites urged him on, whispering for blood, for death. Before he could finish off the third soldier, he heard Relara's voice in his ear, sharp and urgent. "Leon, don't lose yourself. The nanites are amplifying your aggression. You must control it, or they will control you." Her words cut through the haze of violence clouding his mind, and he hesitated, the bloodlust faltering for just a moment. The third hunter took advantage, slamming the butt of his rifle into Leon's ribs. The impact sent him staggering back, pain flaring through his side. But instead of crumpling, Leon let the pain fuel him. With a roar, he lunged forward, smashing the hunter's helmet with the butt of his alien rifle. The faceplate shattered, revealing wide, terrified eyes. Leon could see the panic, the realization that they were not facing an ordinary human. For a moment, he almost felt pity. Almost. But then the nanites surged again, and the whispers filled his mind, drowning out everything else. "Kill. Finish him. Show them your strength." Leon lifted the rifle, intending to deliver the killing blow, but a hand grabbed his arm, stopping him. He spun around, rage blazing in his eyes, only to find Relara standing there, her armor repaired and her wounds mostly healed. "Enough, Leon," she said, her voice calm but firm. "They're defeated. Don't let the nanites turn you into a mindless killer." He stood there, panting, the rage slowly ebbing away. The glow in his eyes dimmed as he forced the whispers back into the dark corners of his mind. With a grunt, he lowered the rifle and let it clatter to the floor. Yeah, okay," he muttered, his voice shaky. "I'm fine. I'm good." But he wasn't fine. He could still feel the nanites thrumming beneath his skin, hungry for violence. It was like a beast chained just beneath the surface, straining to break free. Relara stepped closer, her expression softening. "The nanites amplify your aggression because that's what they were designed to do. They were meant to turn soldiers into unstoppable warriors. But they can be controlled, Leon. You just need to focus." Leon rubbed his temples, trying to clear his head. Why the hell would anyone want to create something like this? To turn people into monsters? "Because the Dominion values power above all else," Relara replied. "They see soldiers as tools, weapons to be used and discarded. I tried to stop them, but now they'll stop at nothing to retrieve what I've stolen." Leon's eyes met hers, and for a moment he saw the pain behind her cold, alien gaze. She wasn't just running to save her own life, she was trying to stop her people from unleashing a nightmare upon the galaxy. Then we stop running, Leon said, his voice steady. We take the fight to them. You teach me how to control these nanites, and together, we'll hit them where it hurts. Relara's eyes widened in surprise, then a small, almost imperceptible smile tugged at her lips. You are either very brave or very foolish, human. Yeah, I've been called worse, Leon replied with a shrug. Now, where do we start? Before she could answer, the ship's sensors blared with a new warning. Relara's fingers danced over the control console, her expression darkening. Another ship is approaching, heavily armed. They've sent reinforcements. Guess they really don't want you getting away, Leon muttered, the nanites already stirring in anticipation of the next fight. No, Relara said, her voice low and grim. This time, they've sent a Reaver. Leon's heart skipped a beat. Reavers were legendary, the Dominion's deadliest hunters, cybernetically enhanced with the same nanites now coursing through his veins. Get ready, Leon, Relara said, her eyes locking onto his. This fight will test every ounce of control you have. If you lose yourself now, there will be no coming back. Leon tightened his grip on the alien rifle, feeling the nanite's pulse with dark excitement. The Reaver was coming, and with it, a fight that could either set him free or doom him forever. The Azara ship shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace, the once quiet hum of its engines now a frantic roar. Through the viewport, Leon saw the moon Aegis 7 looming ahead, a jagged, desolate rock shrouded in swirling dust storms. The Dominion facility hidden beneath its surface was their last hope, the only place where they might find a way to disable the nanites before they consumed him entirely. Brace yourself! Relara shouted over the wailing alarms. The Reaver's ship is right behind us. Leon's knuckles turned white as he gripped the controls, dodging the incoming barrage of plasma fire that streaked through the void like vengeful comets. The Dominion's cruiser was closing in fast, its weapon systems far more advanced than anything the Azara ship could handle. Relara was frantically diverting power to the shields, but they were failing quickly. We can't outrun them, Leon yelled. We need to land, or they'll blast us to pieces. Relara nodded sharply. I've located an access tunnel that leads to the underground facility. I'll initiate an emergency landing sequence. The ship's engines roared as they plummeted toward the moon's surface, the hull groaning under the strain. Plasma fire rained down around them, but somehow they managed to dodge the worst of it. As they neared the surface, Leon saw the narrow opening of the access tunnel. This is going to be rough, Relara warned. Leon held his breath as the ship dove toward the rocky ground, narrowly avoiding a jagged outcrop. The ship slammed into the mouth of the tunnel, sparks flying as it skidded through the narrow passageway. Finally, they came to a jarring halt deep within the moon's caverns, the sound of creaking metal echoing through the hull. We're in, Relara gasped, slumping back in her seat. But the Reaver won't be far behind. Leon's heart pounded in his chest as he pushed himself to his feet. The nanites were thrumming with anticipation, whispering in his mind, urging him to fight, to kill. He could barely keep them under control. Relara, we don't have much time, Leon said, grabbing his gear. If you're going to disable these things, we need to do it now. She nodded, her eyes filled with grim determination. The lab is deeper within the facility. That's where we'll find the device I need to neutralize the nanites. But it's heavily fortified. We'll have to fight our way through. Leon's grin was feral, almost inhuman. Good. I've been itching for a real fight. The descent into the facility, the underground lab, was a cold, sterile maze of metal corridors and flickering lights, the remnants of the Dominion's abandoned research. As they made their way deeper, Leon felt the nanites growing more agitated. It was as if they could sense something ahead, something that could destroy them. Relara moved with the fluid grace of a predator, her eyes constantly scanning for threats. Leon followed closely behind, the alien rifle slung over his shoulder. The whispers in his mind had grown louder, filling him with a dangerous, almost euphoric sense of invincibility. Leon, Focus, Relara warned. The Reaver is coming. If you let the nanites take over now, you'll be lost. He clenched his jaw, trying to drown out the seductive voices. Yeah, well, let's just hope your plan works. They rounded a corner and came face to face with a squad of Dominion soldiers. The enemy raised their weapons, but Leon was faster. The nanites surged through his veins, and in an instant, he was upon them. Plasma rounds zipped past him as he moved with inhuman speed, his alien rifle blasting energy bolts that tore through armor like it was made of paper. Leon, behind you! Relara shouted. Leon spun just in time to see a hulking soldier charging at him, a blade glowing with lethal energy. The nanites screamed for blood, and Leon's vision turned red. He ducked under the soldier's swing, driving his fist into the attacker's chest with bone-crushing force. The impact sent the soldier flying into the wall, leaving a crimson smear. But as the last enemy fell, Leon staggered. His head was pounding, the nanites' whispers now a deafening roar. He felt himself slipping, losing control. Relara was suddenly at his side, her touch grounding him. "Stay with me, Leon," she said softly. "We're almost there." With a grunt, he nodded, forcing himself to focus. "Let's keep moving." The confrontation with the Reaver. They reached the central lab, a cavernous chamber filled with alien machines and holographic displays. In the center of the room was a massive cylindrical device pulsing with energy, the only thing that could deactivate the nanites before they turned Leon into a mindless berserker. But as they approached the device, the temperature dropped, and the lights flickered ominously. A deep, mechanical voice echoed through the room. "You cannot escape, Azara traitor," it said, dripping with malice. "And you, human. You will become one of us." The Reaver stepped into view, a monstrous figure twice the size of a normal soldier, encased in gleaming black armor that seemed to shift and ripple like liquid metal. His eyes glowed the same eerie blue as Leon's, only more intense, more focused. This was what Leon feared he would become if he lost control. "Relara, get to the device," Leon shouted. "I'll hold him off." The Reaver's laughter was a low, rumbling growl. "Foolish human. You are already lost." He moved with terrifying speed, closing the distance between them in a blink. Leon barely managed to dodge the Reaver's blade, the air sizzling where it passed. The fight was brutal. The Reaver was faster, stronger, and more experienced. Leon's enhanced reflexes kept him alive, but just barely. Every strike, every counter was met with ruthless precision. The nanites within him urged him to surrender, to let them take full control. "Give in," they whispered. "Only then can you win." But Leon resisted. He couldn't afford to lose himself now. He had to buy Relara time. Relara, meanwhile, was frantically working at the control panel, her fingers flying over the alien interface. "Almost there, Leon. Just a few more seconds." Leon was barely holding on. The Reaver's relentless assault was wearing him down, and he could feel the nanites pushing him closer to the edge. But then, just as the Reaver's blade came down for a killing blow, the entire facility shook with a burst of energy. The cylindrical device hummed to life, sending out a wave of blue light that washed over them. Leon felt a sudden, excruciating pain as the nanites within him screamed in agony. The whispers in his mind went silent, and he collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. The Reaver, however, wasn't so fortunate. The pulse from the device overloaded his systems, causing his nanite-infused body to convulse violently. With a final, anguished roar, he exploded in a shower of sparks and metal. Leon looked up, breathing hard. Did it work?" Relara knelt beside him, scanning him with a small device. She nodded, her expression softening. "Yes. The pulse has neutralized the nanites' aggressive programming. They're still in your system, but now you have control." Leon let out a shaky laugh, relief flooding through him. That's good, because I'm not sure how much longer I could have kept fighting them. But their victory was short-lived. The alarms blared again, signaling more incoming Dominion ships. Relara's eyes hardened. The Dominion will not stop hunting us. But with the nanites stabilized, you now have the strength to fight back. Leon stood, his legs still unsteady but his mind clear for the first time in days. So, what now? He asked, a determined glint in his eye. Relara gave him a rare, genuine smile. Now, we take the fight to them. The Dominion must pay for what they've done. And with you by my side, we might just stand a chance. As they boarded the ship, Leon couldn't help but feel a strange sense of purpose. He was no longer just a mechanic scraping by on the edge of the galaxy. He was something more now, something the Dominion would soon come to fear. With a roar of engines, their ship blasted off from Aegis 7, leaving the burning facility behind. But this was only the beginning. Together, they would take the fight to the heart of the Dominion, and nothing, not even the voices in his mind, would stop them.